All right, grab a Bible. Grab a Bible. I will too. There's one passage I want to use to begin taking a look at today. We'll finish it today, I believe. The issue of silence and solitude, a discipline that I would argue that results, among other things, in an unhurried life. This is Luke chapter 5. I believe I've talked about this text before in here. Yet the news about him spread all the more, so that crowds of people came to hear him and to be healed of their sicknesses. So he has a lot to do. Jesus Christ was given by God the Father the most important work in the history of the human race. The most important work. And here he's doing works of healing, exorcism, and so on that are manifesting the breaking in of the age to come into the midst of this present evil age, right? And we get this unexpected overlap between the ages. It's the most important work by someone who is not infected with the disease that we have. He is not infected with sin. Now look at the next verse. But Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. Often is the adverb. He often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. He possessed this internal freedom, an internal freedom to withdraw often into silence and solitude and prayer, I would argue, so that he could do well what his Father was asking him to do. How much more so we in our much more troubled condition. You know, I read a text like this and I ask myself the question, all right, Chris, how in the world then could you possibly think you could live a hectic, frenetic, busy life and follow the pattern of Christ's own life? He was busy, but not in a frenetic, hectic pattern. One of the most important texts, I think, in the New Testament. Now, so we have the issue of silence and solitude and what Ortberg calls an unhurried life. You're busy. I acknowledge it. And you've got finals coming up. And these mean-spirited professors asking you to do so much. I understand. And when you graduate, some of you graduating, guess what? You'll be busy working for some mean-spirited person in a business somewhere or in graduate school back with those professors again. Life will always have that tone, I would think, that there's much to do. It depends on how we do it. There's always much to do. Jesus had much to do. It depends on how we do it. Now, Ortberg's chapter is this is one of the best chapters in his book. It's his chapter on what he calls an unhurried life. So I would really like you to memorize word for word the entire chapter. It is good, though. So there's a word I would like, or a phrase I would like you to know. I think I've used it already today. Hurry sickness. Hurry sickness. And Ortberg describes hurry sickness on page 78. Actually quoting from a man by the name of Meyer Friedman. Meyer Friedman defines hurry sickness as, above all, a continuing struggle, an unremitting attempt to accomplish or achieve more and more things, or participate in more and more events in less and less time. Now on page 79, it's really good. Quote, following Jesus cannot be done at a sprint. Following Jesus cannot be done at a sprint. Lord, that's a good one. Can you teach me something else? And he says, no. Frankly, this is going to take about 20 years. 20 years! No. I had a mentor who taught me this. Spiritual growth is the slowest of all human movements. I've never forgot that. It was tremendously freeing. Spiritual growth is the slowest of all human movements. I should be by this by now. Speed it up, Lord. For crying out loud, there's a lot we got to do. And he's saying, oh, please stop. Stop. This is going to take a while. And it's going to take a while for you to get to know me. And if you're going to get to know me, you're going to have to withdraw and spend time with me. The slowest of all human movements. So Orberg writes this. If we want to follow someone, we can't go faster than the one who's leading. So if Jesus lived and lives, even today, I would argue, this kind of wise, paced life, why are we rushing ahead when he's walking slowly? Perhaps there's things that we'll see if we slow down. Perhaps there's things that we'll hear if we slow down. All right, now, what are some signs of this kind of hurry sickness? What are some of the signs of a disordered, hurried heart? Number one, constantly speeding up daily activities. A sign of this, the way we drive. You ever find yourself on the freeway kind of gauging where you are in relationship to everybody else? Last night I was at the Phillies game and we were leaving the Phillies game, and it was just amazing what was going on in the parking lot as people were trying to get out ahead of other people. Words I saw being exchanged on the edge of physical violence. At a stoplight, if there are 2 lanes and each contains 1 car, we find ourselves guessing, based on the year, make, and model of each car, which one will pull away the fastest. How about the grocery store? Waiting in line at the grocery store, and there's 3 or 4 lines. At the grocery store, if we have a choice between 2 checkout lines, we find ourselves counting how many people are in each line, multiplying this number by the number of items per cart. If we have a really bad case of hurry sickness, then even after we get in line, we keep track of the person who would have been with me in the other line. If we get through and the person who would have been with me is still waiting, we are elated. I won! Yeah, I'm embarrassed to say it. You know, I went to Ethiopia last week, and I get back to LA, or not to LA International, to Philly, and I'm standing in the passport line, and all these long lines. I'm getting, And I did it, and I spotted a couple. I still see their faces, to my shame. I saw their faces, and I felt this fallen sense of satisfaction as they were staying where they were, and my immigration officer was so efficient, and I'm just, and I glanced back every now and then. I'm winning. It's really fallen. I'm winning, and somehow that sense of satisfaction, so friendly when I walk up to the immigration officer, how you doing? Great job you're doing, and looking back over my shoulder. That's just sick. What does he call this? Constantly speeding up daily activities. How about this one? Multiple tasking. Trying to do more than one thing at a time. This must be something I need to work on. Like in the car, drinking coffee, driving, trying to figure out what I want to listen to on my iPod while glancing down and looking up and trying not to kill a human being. Clutter, number 3, clutter. We're going to talk about simplicity next week, but people suffering from hurry sickness tend to be cluttered, also in terms of what they possess. He says life is cluttered when we're weighed down by the burden of all the things we have failed to say no to. Are we feeling frenetic and exhausted on the edge of being burned out because we haven't said no when we should have? And we haven't said no because we were so deeply concerned about that person's expectations, and we wanted to please them. So it's yes, 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 psychiatric distress. saying no. Have to move on to the next one. An inability to love. Now think of this connection. So Christ calls us to love, right? He calls our nature to be transformed by the Spirit so that love is the result. Loving people are always, I would argue, see if this works. Loving people are always patient. Patient and kind and gentle. They are long-suffering. They have learned to persevere. And Paul writes in Romans chapter 5, and perseverance brings hope and is a manifestation of what he calls proven character. Now think about that for a minute. Because Ortberg's point is this: hurry sickness always manifests itself in an inability to love. Hurried people have a really tough time loving. How about this one? Next one, sunset fatigue. Sunset fatigue. You know what sunset fatigue is? It would be if I work here at Eastern and get home, say, at 7 o'clock at night, and I am so tired, I snap at my wife. Or I say, I don't want to talk about it now. Give me some room. But I demand the whole evening. Give me some room, and I go into my bedroom and turn on the TV and slowly but surely fade off into that netherworld with that screen blinking at me, having no time for anyone because by the end of the day, because I've just rushed through the day, I'm exhausted. So how tired are you at the end of the day? And how does it manifest itself in your behavior to those you love most? See, I've actually I think learn this because I can accomplish just as much in a given day by leading a paced life as a frenetic life by the time the day's over. But I find that when I get home and I'm with those that are closest to me, I'm much more patient if I've paced myself through the day, like Christ would. And then he always had something to offer someone. Sunset fatigue. Now, here, asterisk. This is why we practice silence and solitude. This is the heart of the matter. Page 84. What makes solitude so important? Solitude is the one place where we can gain freedom from the forces of society that will otherwise relentlessly mold us. And he comments, the truth is that the dangers to which we're most vulnerable are generally not the sudden, dramatic, obvious ones. They are the ones that creep up on us. They are so much a part of our environment that we don't even notice them. We are born into a lethal environment. An environment that will kill us spiritually unless we wake up to the danger of living in that environment. I mean, how has our environment as North Americans molded us and shaped us so that we are blind to certain very important things? Or we behave in behavior A or behavior B or behavior C, and we really haven't even thought about it. And yet if Christ said, we're going to spend the afternoon together, we'd start thinking about it. That's why silence and solitude is so important, because it takes us out of that environment. So we practice silence and solitude on a regular basis to be able to tell who we are, what's molded and shaped us, and what Christ is calling us to be.